everyone, it's Pat from Pat Dev Music, and today we're talking about the mechanics of speed. That's right, anybody can play fast, absolutely anybody. It just takes time, and just like some people are sort of more gifted or have natural talents in sort of running fast, some people have natural talents in playing fast, but that doesn't mean that you can't train and get up to the same level. That's the most important thing. Sometimes you look at a guitarist or you look at a musician or an artist and you think, whoa, they've just got some sort of switch. They just sort of flick a switch and suddenly they're playing like 1,000,000 miles an hour. I could never do that. You definitely can do that. It's just making sure you've got 5 different mechanics down. So that's what we're talking about. So last week we released this speed video. This is the link here. It looks like this. Now definitely check that out if you haven't, but I still received a lot of messages and people on Facebook and emails, sort of people telling me, Pat, I still don't sort of get it. I still can't quite play fast. So we're breaking it down even further, and I'm going to show you the exact mechanics in how to play fast so that anybody can play fast. So once you've got all these 5 tips down, then go back and check out that other video for the first sort of scalic, sort of shreddy run that you can start practicing and see speed boosts every single day. Diving right on in, the guitar isn't this sort of magical floating being that's just sort of flying around there. No, you don't want that at all. You want that locked in at a few different positions. So whether it's on your leg this way or that way or up like that or on your chest at different heights, you want it sort of locked in so that this hand has to do as little work as possible. So this hand doesn't have to move up too much, doesn't have to move down too much, and doesn't have to move in a 3D space to find the guitar. It's always sort of locked in. So they're the first few points that we're going to talk about. So when you're playing fast, have a look at this hand. It doesn't actually move that much at all. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Pat, it doesn't sound very fast. Well look, if we add some extra notes as well. Okay, so we're definitely getting some speed there, and if you notice my hand and wrist and arm, they're really not moving too much. They're just sort of locked in. So that's what we can talk about. So step number 1 is to lock your forearm. That's why a lot of guitars have this sort of forearm cut. It's to make sure it's nice and smooth so it doesn't sort of bite and cut you in there. So you want your forearm sort of locked in. That's number 1. All you have to do is just have that forearm resting against the guitar. Already that's going to push the guitar against your body, no matter what side or what height it is. It's going to sort of anchor it down. That's 1. Number 2, you want your wrist or any part of that wrist there, or sort of your lower sort of forearm, any part of that sort of area, you want it to rest. Now, it's up to you. You could rest it on the bridge of a lot of guitars, just your wrist, still sort of making sure your pick is between the 2 pickups. Some people like it down here for a sort of brighter tone. Some people like it up here for a warmer tone. You will find just this natural sound that you like, or you will naturally find that your wrist sort of seems to sit in a particular area. But that's 2. So we've already anchored 2 different points. So you've got 1 point, which is your forearm, another point, which is resting on the bridge. The third part, before we even get to picking with speed, the third part is you rest the meaty part of your wrist on the strings. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but you want it resting on the strings because whenever you play guitar, there's going to be noise. So let's say you want this note right here. You want the 5th fret and the 1st string, right? You just want that 1 fret to sound. You don't want other frets to sound. So that's where the meaty part of your palm comes in. It's resting on those other strings to ensure that when I play that 1 note, the other notes are dead. So that's 3. So 1, forearm, 2, resting your wrist or some part of your forearm onto the bridge and then leading into the strings. You want that meaty part of your hand leading onto the strings. So if your entire hand was there, you could get a muted sound. So if you would play any note, it would be muted. That is the first 3 parts. Well done. Number 4, you don't want to be picking with your forearm. So when I say that, you don't want to be speed picking with your forearm like that. Look, the entire forearm, already you can see the tension on the arm there. You don't want tension. You don't want to be sort of playing and things just start to seize up. You never want that. You want it to be nice and calm and relax so you can play the fastest for the longest period of time without ever sort of worrying about RSI or anything like that. You never want sort of those sorts of issues. So you're going to be picking from your wrist. Now, something else that I've seen is some people sometimes sort of pick with their thumb and their first finger. Now look, every now and again, if you're after sort of a big note, or you're after some pinch harmonics, you might be picking with your finger and your thumb. It might just come out when you're expressing yourself. But when you're playing fast, you don't want to be picking, because already the thumb and the first finger have to worry about holding the pick. You don't want to give them another job with picking back and forth, and really it'll just slow you down or lead to more tension. So you want to be picking from the wrist. So notice only the wrist is going up and down. Now that may not seem like quite fast, but if you add some notes, it is actually quite fast, and it's all just coming from the wrists. So there you go. So number one, lock your forearm in. Number two, see if you can lock your wrist in or the meaty part on the bridge. Number three is to mute with your thick part of your hand. Number four is to pick from the wrist. The final tip, number five, then you're ready to start shredding up a storm. Number five. Number five, this is something that often people simply forget, and they start doing this chromatic stuff, or they start, even the exercise that I was talking about before. They start with that sort of stuff. Again, link in the comment section. But before you even do that, just start the mechanics of picking an open string. You want the movements to be as small as possible. So you want to practice so you have, as soon as you pick down, you don't do an exaggerated movement, you don't fly off there, you don't reach for a coffee, you just have that pick down, and then you're ready to pick back up. So pick down, and then ready to pick back up. Let's get another angle. So you pick down, then you're ready to pick back up. The movement is very, very small. What I want you to do is practice just on one string. Pick down, then pick up. From a different angle. The idea here is I want you to have a really even tempo. Then once you can do that, move up all the strings. So before you start whittling away, you're really just focusing on all of the mechanics just to make sure that you're going to give yourself the biggest chance of success. Now, as you're sort of trying to build up speed, if you noticed, there's too much tension, that might be because you're trying to play too fast. Go back slow. If there's any tension at all on sort of this hand or your wrist or anything like that, slow it down. If you've noticed that you may be missing the notes, slow it down and make sure that you're anchored in. Remember, 1, 2, 3, the angle of the pick as well, picking with your wrist, 4, and then just focus on those single notes. Those are the steps there. I hope you had fun. This will definitely help you in building speed. And the thing is, with sort of picking speed or anything with guitar, the more time you put into it, the faster and the better you'll become if you're doing things slow. If you try to race things and just play a million miles an hour from the get-go, you're gonna run into tension, you're gonna maybe injure yourself, you're gonna be sort of hitting some notes but not all, and then the problem with that is you'll sort of think that you're at a particular level and you'll keep trying to push that boundary, but really you're down here. So you need to really solidify all those different sort of things we were talking about, make sure they're rock solid, the guitar is against you, you've anchored in so that you're gonna give yourself the best chance of success. So if you're thinking about it, the guitar, again, like before, it's not floating around that you have to try and reach and pick really quickly. It's locked in at so many different points, and then it just gives you that higher chance of success. But that's it. I hope you had fun. Next week, we're going into a really hard picking technique. So I want to make sure that we've got all the basics down. And again, the more you practice, the faster you will get. And the more time you put in, the faster you will get. So this is something you're practicing once a week. Fantastic. Make sure you're using a metronome and write down your speed. And the next week, try and sort of beat it by 1, 2, or 3 BPM. But that's been it. Did you enjoy this video? Definitely leave me a comment if you liked it. And I will see you all again. Bye.